So we're back from executive session. No action was taken. Moving on. Well, let's see. Are we all back?
Yeah, we're going back.
Moving on to regular agenda. Discuss and consider action regarding the mayor's appointment to the Personnel Appeal Board. I think most of you know Alex Porter, kind of an icon in Pflugerville, former FBI agent. Well, you got his resume here somewhere, I think. Anyway.
Can I make a motion?
Go ahead.
Motion to approve 6A is presented.
Second.
Thank you. Motion second.
Can I include Alex Porter's name in that motion?
Yes. I mean, he literally is a legend.
Mr. Porter's not here, is he?
No. We would hear it, trust me.
Okay. Oh, Kim is not here. Okay. All right, motion carried. Okay, item 6B, I'm sorry. Discuss and consider action to approve an agreement with Cobb, Finley and Associates in the amount of $195,962 for professional engineering services associated with broadband needs evaluation and comprehensive broadband master plan project, and authorize the city manager to execute the same. Thomas.
All right, good evening, Mayor and Council. Thanks for having us. Tonight, we're going to run through real quickly. This is a professional services agreement with Cobb, Finley and Associates. Hopefully what you'll hear tonight is that following the last time that we talked about this, we went through a process to go find a group that we believe is not only exceptional at this topic, but a leader in the state. Here's a real quick broadband timeline. This is the little map that shows where we're at and where we came from. We're hoping, if approved tonight, we're looking at a notice to proceed early November, and then we'll talk a little bit about the visioning phase and the planning phase, and moving forward into the action items that are related to the scope of work. Really want to make sure that you guys understand what this specific scope of work is, because it's not maybe your most traditional just planning document. So we started negotiation with Cobb Finley, and really what we're talking about here is we're talking about a multitude of things. We're talking about a broadband master plan. We're also talking about action items. If you go through the two phases of this scope of work, they're broken out into two packages, the first being a visioning phase, the second being a planning phase. In that visioning phase, we heard very specifically from council and others that they wanted to make sure that we were looking at what actual evidence and data is out there and verifying that in the field.
So you're doing an asset map.
Exactly.
Cool.
We're going to go out and we're going to verify speeds. We're going to verify costs. We're going to identify underserved areas so that when we bring you all something to make broader decisions around, you feel confident in that data. One of the things that I'll mention, I was going to mention early on, but I'll mention it now. Cobb Finley is so well respected in this field, working for a multitude of cities. They provide technical assistance at the state level in evaluating communities and how they handle broadband, because as you all know, there's a myriad of different ways that cities can do this. Anyways, then we've got the community and stakeholder engagement piece. We're slating that for late December, pushing into February, really making a data-driven analysis, looking at service verification, and then reaching out to all of our stakeholders. We've got a couple of big stakeholders that we want to make sure that are involved in this process, and then wrapping that all the way back around in early spring with a visioning meeting and a work session with you all to understand the information that we've collected.
Cool.
At that point in time, we jump over into the planning phase. That's where the broadband master plan development happens. And equally as importantly, we transition into that portion where we evaluate public-private partnerships. And you'll hear us talk about the multi-tool approach, right? As we move forward through this process, this is just showing the exact same information in a different visual format because I'm visual. As we talk about this process, you may have underserved areas. You may have areas that have barrier to entry relative to access to internet. There's different tools to resolve that. You've also got the other 2/3 of the city that isn't here yet. There's different tools to solve that. We want to make sure that we're using all those tools. What makes Pflugerville unique? Well, everything makes Pflugerville unique. But specifically, as we're talking about this, you've got an amazing capital improvement plan that is kind of unlike most areas in Central Texas. And what that means is we're in the process of planning for, designing, and executing to rebuild so many of our streets, it's kind of ridiculous. This is when we talk about utilizing the one dig method, there's tremendous opportunity for us to incorporate this type of infrastructure in the projects that we are already doing.
That's what I was about to, I mean, can you explain real? No, I'm actually on what y'all 8:30. Dang.
We're like,
All right.
I'd like to tell you that this is a novel idea, but we've already started doing it, especially on the utility side. We've got some major interceptor projects, pipeline projects, and in those projects, we already have included pipelines to pull broadband infrastructure.
So you're
through
saying
those.
right now, as we speak, we have fiber that's being pulled in those specific projects, or laid.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. And so when we talk about that multi-tool approach, you have areas in the city that are already built out where we're going to go through the process of identifying what those service issues are. That's where we get into identifying those public-private partnerships. On the capital side, you have a tremendous opportunity to ensure that that infrastructure is being put in kind of a fiscally sustainable process and equally as importantly, in an area that's not going to bifurcate the rest of your projects for eternity by having infrastructure that's in the way and not controlled potentially by the city. So again, this is just a planning phase map that says we're looking through this process to work with Cobb Finley to identify opportunities to leverage our CIP and future growth in the city. And really, what does that look like?
Can you go back to just a second to that last slide?
Sure.
So we have how many unserved addresses total? Is that 23?
So I want to be real careful here because the first piece of the scope in this is to take the publicly accessible data and to go verify all of it.
Can you
Because
explain?
if the problem is that small, this is a solution in search of a problem.
I don't know that the problem is that small or isn't that small, and that's where again there's a lot of data out there, and we need to go verify that data.
So that's literally the purpose of it, because what has happened is that the calculations that are utilized by the federal government, or that are usually likely the benchmark for this, aren't small enough, narrow enough. They're too much of a macro level to actually aggregate specifically if that's in case is the fact. That's why you have places like in Fort Worth where you can be one block over and you literally can have internet here and not internet over there as well. Because it's within I thought the standard's like within a, is it 1.3, 1.2 mile radius or something like that from that. So this whole project is to figure out, is the problem this small? Like, is it really, as you said, 23 addresses or so? Or are there other issues with that? And I mean, that's the point.
And then I think if there are 23 addresses, let's just buy 23 Starlinks and boom, we're finished.
Yeah, no. And so I think that part of this may be on the underserved side of it. It seems like I saw some statistic about what that threshold is. It's like if you have DSL, you're considered served, which nowadays may not be good enough in terms of learning, distance learning and whatnot. So some of those standards haven't caught up with the current technology.
And remember, what we're pulling it, we're saying it, I mean, even what you're talking about, the speed-wise, from the various services, to your point, I mean, it's ridiculous. The federal government just moved that speed level because it was like 25 megabits, something insane that nobody utilized at home with it. So, again, that's the whole point of doing this, is to find this out.
Where we're really at.
Well, and the biggest complaint I get from the community is not that speeds are too slow. It's not that access is unavailable. I hear quite frequently that speeds are available. It's just they don't like that one provider, and quite frequently these areas lack competition. We may have one provider who offers a 200 megabit service, and a subsequent provider who only offers DSL at 25, and well, they don't like DSL, but they don't like the other provider, so they feel as though they are underserved.
See, that provider is unreliable. I was about to say, because what I've heard is, I've heard the inverse, is that like a lot of people, they haven't had access. Now the access has expanded even in the last 6 to 8 months, to where AT&T and some other things.
I've yet to meet someone who does not have access to broadband.
I'll send you an email.
Apparently there are 23 addresses.
And again, I know that.
But did you hear what you said? Had access to broadband.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is one of the issues with the federal government, what the definition of broadband is.
And the definition there being at least 25 megabit service,
Yeah.
which is
Adequate for almost everything.
I think it's also
Unless
important.
you're, live wargaming.
I think it's also important to highlight.
25? Is that
I think it's also important to highlight the
I'll send you
the
a-
way that the information is derived from the companies and how they're submitting it relative to this area has broadband and how macro, micro that information is being reported to the FCC. And so while an area might be reported as having broadband, that doesn't necessarily mean that this street does. This street doesn't.
they draw larger polygons than we would
Exactly.
like. I'm sure.
Did you say larger polygons?
Yeah,
He did like that.
within your GIS systems. But now I also know when I was recently looking for a new house, I was able to plug in each and every address into the Fiber Finder website thingy and make sure that I had fiber access, and that helped me rule out.
And you made fun of me for doing that. We built our home specifically
Oh, yeah,
where
yeah,
we
he
can
did.
find
Yeah,
gig fiber.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
literally,
Rudy
we're like,
literally-
make it fiber. Can you
Well, and going back to your other comment, I think that the verification stage is not only to tell us what speeds are available, but what providers are in
But
that
what
area.
providers and what speeds and
Highlight that.
You're gonna
really,
have all the answers in a couple months.
there's
all the
well, that's a broad statement. There's 4 action or anticipated outcomes that come from this, and I think it's highly important that we understand what those are. One is that broadband master plan that
bless you.
really helps us to evaluate the different areas of the city and what prescription is necessary based on the verification that we do, and that's really talking about the existing built environment. Number 2 is making sure that we've got the correct public policy tools, and in the scope you'll see that Cobb Finley is going to assist the city by preparing for us revisions to our not only our development standard but potentially our code sections, such that we can make sure that we're a broadband friendly community. We are doing things in a manner that's going to allow those private providers to come in and deploy as is necessary to meet the community's needs. Number 3, publish requests for expressions of interest. That's finding out who we can draw into the community to fill those gaps where there's only one provider and seeing what those opportunities are. And then lastly, helping us with public-private partnerships such that we can go out, and if there is an underserved area that meets a low-income threshold or whatever it is, we can look for grants, we can do all those types of things. So in that way, I think that this scope is pretty appropriate based off of the feedback that we've heard so far. With that, this is the recommendation in front of you tonight to approve a professional services agreement with Cobb Finley in the amount of $195,000 and authorize the city manager to execute the same. We are happy to answer any questions.
So how many Starlinks can you get for 23 people?
Can we get it for less than $195,000?
I'm not qualified to speak on behalf of Starlink.
If this is a problem that affects 23 people, this is a ridiculous amount of money.
And again,
If it affects 5,000 people, it's not ridiculous. But the available data shows me it's 23 addresses.
I think the thing that I would just highlight is that the scope of services is not aimed specifically at only resolving existing barriers to infrastructure.
David was against it.
It is also about
I think it's
ensuring
more.
that the
It's just
rest
that
of the city's
information.
build out is in line with how
This
we're
will tell
going to
us.
deploy broadband throughout the community to make sure that we don't have infrastructure that's creating a barrier to all of our CIP projects moving forward, that we don't have redundant infrastructure, and quite honestly, that we don't set ourselves up to be in a position of a future monopoly where there is only one provider. So it's more holistic than that. A component of that scope of service is to address underserved areas, and realistically, it is our belief, and I think we've heard from others, that we don't know the scope or extent of those services. We hope to partner with entities like the school district, like some other quasi-governmental entities to ensure that we understand what those needs are. We've heard, quite honestly, that there was a lot of pop-up infrastructure that had to go up during COVID because there were a number of areas that did not have infrastructure. So we need to validate that.
Well, it does seem to me that there was an effort, put in place several years ago when there was a bigger problem, but technology and Marketplace, our friends at Google and Yahoo and AT&T and Singular and all of those other providers have largely eliminated a problem that existed 4 years ago when we began this, when the federal government began making a big push to solve this problem. And it was, absolutely, it was a real problem when COVID hit. People went into seclusion and kids were at home and they didn't have access to high-speed internet, which they needed to continue their education. It looks to me like the problem has been solved by the combination of a technological advance and marketplace action.
Well, let's let the experts figure that out. We're not the experts.
I want to know, the first thing I want to know is the problem bigger than 23 homes?
Well, let's let the experts figure that out. I mean, again,
$200,000.
And again, the scope of this
That's an awful lot
project
to
is more than
pay to
just
find out.
providing that answer. I don't know how many times he has to tell you
He's
that.
literally said that. Mayor, we
It's
changed
not.
Thomas, can I ask? I do have
It's a
one
big problem.
one question about the potential outcomes of this this study, this plan. And you mentioned the dig once mentality, right? We want to, as we're digging up the streets, we want to make sure that the providers are coordinated to lay fiber. Is it reasonable to expect that multiple providers will lay fiber in that open trench and cohabitate within that single trench? I've heard that some providers will not share areas. They don't want to be in the same trench.
Right.
Do we expect that that'll be part of our development requirements in the future?
So I think that this is going to go back to, you see some cities that go all the way and they decide they're going to have a municipally owned broadband network.
Palo Alto.
And then you see all these other ones who say, we're just going to let the private sector do what they want. And I think much is true in life, that the truth is somewhere in between. And so on major collectors, it may be that we're building that
We're
backbone
building the
infrastructure.
conduit.
But on some of the side streets, it may be different. So yes, have we heard the concern that multiple providers don't like to jump into the same trench? Sure. And on some of those major collectors, it may be that we put the infrastructure in, and the best management practice would be to lease that out.
That's what I was going to ask. I mean, is there a model like Encore where we build the lines, or we have the infrastructure, the fiber, and then multiple entities can lease that from us?
So I think that, as a part of this scope, one of the things that Cobb Finley's in a position to do is to reach out to those entities and say, if we were to deploy in this manner, would this be an efficient way for privates to partner with the city?
I think that's a good. I think that's a good way to put it, because, to your point, one of my frustrations being in the broadband committee for the state is finding out the monopoly. Yeah, I guess it's this Bob. South Ma and Pa Bill, that thing's real, and it is shocking what AT&T, can or can't do, and who they bully around and don't allow and disallow from. Just like you said, laying in these pipes right there. You're like, hey, wait a minute. No, why don't we, if we're doing all this, let's get other people in there. No, because of the controls they have from here. So I think from a policy standpoint, I know you keep boiling this down to 23 people. I like the idea, the general policy standpoint. What can we do? What are we looking for? What do we enforce? What do we go and relate from these things? Like those are real other issues that come with this right there. Because what Doug said, that's the problem, is that you do find these folks who are like, oh no, we got this, and unless you're using us, you're gone. Did you entertain a motion?
Yep.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Have a motion second to approve item 6B.
it's a tough one. It's equity.
Okay, motion carried. Our next item is 6C, discuss and consider action to approve a construction contract with Thale Construction Company in the amount of $12,795,000 associated with the secondary Colorado River raw water line, raw water pump station package 2 project, and authorize the city manager to execute the same.
Is this water for 23 people?
It'll serve, I'll guarantee it'll serve more than 23 households. Sure, hit the right button here.
I'm sorry, could you introduce yourself, sir?
Good evening, Mayor, Council, Mr. Breland. For the record, I'm Jeff Dunsworth, Assistant Utility Director and City Engineer. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to present. This is a great milestone here with the city. This is starting construction on one of our big three, our final big three projects. You heard us talk about them for a number of years. This concludes the water line project, the pump station. These next three items are somewhat interrelated, and they are all actually interconnected. It's just I'd like to issue a note of appreciation to our consultants, STV, Freeze and Nichols, for bringing us to this momentous milestone. It's a big move for us. And also acknowledge Mr. Pritchard, who successfully negotiated the contract with LCRA a couple of years ago to increase our annual draw from the river from 12,000 acre feet per year to 24,000 acre feet per year, essentially doubling our raw water intake. And this new facilities will make it capable for us to convey and keep the water level up to maintain the water level in the lake, which is a great recreational resource for the community, as well as maintain water quality. And as you notice, these are all three related. If you take a close look at the exhibit, you'll notice that all of our milestones, tie-up or contract dates kind of are synchronized. This first package, package 2, is the pump station expansion at the Lower Colorado River pump station. It's going to include upgrades to the 3 existing pumps and installation of a 4th pump. Thale is our qualified bidder, is a recommended action. Just recommend approval of this contract for $12 million plus. This project supports the strategic goal of the infrastructure, as well as helps meet the future growth, economic development, helps sustain economic development. As we're all aware, no water, no growth. Water is critical to public health, safety, and welfare. This project is funded in part with assistance from TWDB, Texas Water Development Board, and the EPA WIFIA program. And for the life of me, I can't remember what WIFIA stands. Water Innovative Finance.
Water Innovative Finance Authority, I think.
And I have my consultants here and also our contractors here, should you have any questions.
So I never thought about it before, but now I'm curious. Where we have the pumps, do we lease the land where the pumps are? Do we own that little parcel down there?
That's owned by City of Pflugerville.
Really?
Can we annex it?
Can we tack? What's the ad valorem property? No.
There's a navigatable waterway right there, right? It's a pipe, but so Jeff, my main question, I'm looking at this and the next 2 packages that are on the agenda. We got about $105 million in investment in this project on the agenda tonight. Can you give me an idea from a CIP perspective? Are we staying in line with our budget and our expectations? Are we seeing cost overruns?
On this project, we are staying within our overall our cost budget. We're within our price point. Well within. In the next couple of slides, we've got approximately $17 million in savings. We're able to develop with just using economical, more newer pipe technology. It's epoxy coated pipe you'll see in the next presentations 2 and 3. We're using a cathodic protection system to help maintain the corrosion resistance of the pipe, maintain the integrity of the pipeline.
That's exciting to hear. I'm glad to hear that we're not only staying within budget, but we're finding ways to save money. Always good to deliver on our promises to the citizens without going over budget.
This is great. This is great. This is one of the most important projects that we have going, and for you to say that we're saving and finding more innovative solutions to this too as well. we're setting the standard for the state. Y'all know very well the other folks around the state are looking at what we're doing right here with that. So kudos to y'all.
Well, I mean,
Without water, there is no life.
not even, I mean, laying the pipe is one thing, but negotiating to have double
Yeah.
capacity,
That's crazy.
that's great. Is there, is there a projection on how many LUEs or what sort of population that amount of water will serve?
We are good through at least 2040, based on our projected growth. Post year 2040, we're looking at some new innovative water reuse mechanisms, conservation, reclaimed water, possibly DPR, our aquifer storage recharge. There's a new technologies we feel in 10, 15 years they'll be more affordable, more reasonable, more efficient. There'll be other ways out there that we can solve our future water demand.
Is this secondary line zebra mussel proof?
We do have
my gosh.
measures in place at the plant to mitigate
Okay.
zebra
Yeah,
mussels.
There's no such thing as zebra proof, I think we heard.
Now, are those measures in place at the pump station or solely at the processing end?
They're already in place at the pump station.
They are. Good.
Mr. Mayor, will you accept the motion?
Yes.
Move to approve.
The motion is seconded. Item 6C. Okay, motion carried. 6D,
Next one.
discuss and consider action to approve a construction contract with S.J. Lewis Construction of Texas in the amount of $56,665,407.35 associated with the secondary Colorado River water line, Package 3 project, and authorize the city manager to execute the same. Do we have to leave the 35 cents?
I was asking the same question. I mean,
I mean, that just pushed me over the budget, that 35 cents.
My apologies. We should not
That's
have had that in the. But we do.
I appreciate the
I'll
level of
throw
detail.
the 35 cents in.
I don't think anyone's going to complain about you being meticulous too.
oh no, is it for 23 people? I mean,
But,
You are an engineer.
All right. It's for, what did you say? It's for another 80,000 people?
at least through 2040, what our population will be, and it's probably. I know I'd hate to guess what our population would be in 2040, but at the projected rates, it'll be far more than our current population. And I think that's a safe bet, as a prudent engineer would say. This next package is Package 3. So water lines portion within the city of Austin. It's approximately 10 miles. It's once again, this pipeline, the material selected will be poly-coated steel. It provided us in a budget the savings about $12.2 million. We've received bids, we reviewed and detailed bids, and S.J. Lewis was determined to be the most qualified bidder for Package 3. It's anticipated we will be in construction in November. Anticipated completion is in May 26. Recommend approve the contract with S.J. Lewis. Once again, this project supports the strategic goal of infrastructure. And I will entertain any questions, and once again, our consultant and our contractors are here.
so how recent of a technology is this poly-coated steel pipe?
It's 30 years.
So, I mean, it seems like it was introduced in this project as a cost-saving measure. Is the production of it just become more efficient and lower the
It's-
cost, or why is
it's
it why is it such a up in front thing right now?
It's a lighter weight pipe. It's produced not locally, but it's within the state of Texas. Transport is far more efficient. Transport is far less costly. The duct iron pipe is produced in Alabama in this diameter. I believe nationwide, there's only 2 suppliers, and they're both in Alabama. There's a significant cost. Also, the steel pipe, it comes in greater lengths, which helps the contractor out as far as his production. There's fewer joints, which is a great aspect for the integrity of the pipeline itself. That's generally where the leaks occur, is at the joints. And I did mention that it's cathodic. We're going to have impressed current cathodic protection throughout the full length of the pipeline to increase the pipeline integrity and the pipeline lifespan.
It's pretty cool.
Mr. Mayor, will you entertain a motion?
Sure.
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve item 6D.
All right, Doug, we're going for your time.
Okay. 6E, discuss and consider action to approve a construction contract with Belt Construction of Texas in the amount of $35,326,497 associated with the second Colorado River water line, a package 4 project, and authorize city manager to execute the same.
This is package 4 for the water line. This is approximately 5 miles in length. This is outside of the city of Austin's jurisdiction within Travis County and the city of Pflugerville. Once again, this is we will utilize the poly-coated steel pipeline. It's a savings of approximately $5.6 million on the length of the pipeline. We received bids. Bids were reviewed and evaluated by the consultant and the city staff. Belt was determined to be the qualified bidder for package 4 contract. Once again, this project will begin construction next month with an estimated final completion of May 26. Recommend contract award in the amount of $35,326,497. Once again, this project supports the strategic goal of robust infrastructure.
Mayor,
So
Why do we
just
have
out of
three oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Jim.
Just out of curiosity, is this, are these building from the endpoints together? And there'll be a ceremony when the pipes join? Or are they building
Golden
from the
Spike.
middle out? How?
We have 2 different contractors.
That's funny.
As far as means and methods, where the contractor starts, where they finish, we won't get into that kind of detail. With the contractor, we do have easements with expiration dates that they are going to have to comply with. So they'll have to work within those constraints first. We do have some clearing constraints that we will have to work with also. But it's the contractor can determine his best method forward to meet the deadline. And we have it's not going to be the offset rail line situation. We have a dedicated easement. We have an existing pipeline. We have complete surveys. We know from end to end where the pipeline needs to be, and we will have follow up with surveyors, contractor surveyors, and we will field verify that it's in the right place.
So based on those right of access for the easements, it's not, the pipeline's not necessarily going to be built linearly. It could, this section be built and skip ahead and build another section and build the section in between and join them. It's not going to be all in one, just.
The contractor would do their best to build it in one linear progression, which is the most cost effective.
Right.
But we do have some easement constraints. We have easements that we have to get in first and complete early. Certainly within the city of Austin, there's a couple of easements of major concern. And we will share those dates with the contractor. He'll have to set his milestones accordingly. And we will let him determine what is the best way, the best method to meet our timeline.
Does that mean
Contractual timeline.
Does that mean we may have multiple work sites?
Yes, we'll have multiple activities over the 15 miles.
And so, and then making sure, do we have one inspection team that's looking at all those? Do we have?
We'll have ample inspection. We've got an inspection to make sure that we have adequate inspection. We'll have city staff as well as our owner's rep team.
I'm just curious why we have, on these 3 different sections, why we have 3 different contractors. What was the difference?
It's critical. The section going through City of Austin, there are numerous agencies we're going to have to deal with. Numerous crossings, TxDOT, Travis County. I think there's 4 or 5 different divisions of just the City of Austin that we're going to have to deal with. It's going to be a most burdensome to take care. And we feel that utilizing the 3 contractors will ensure the best goal for the city and minimize the city's risk. We have contractual dates that we have to provide water. We need to be taking water in in May 26.
All right, that sounds great. Mr. Mayor, will you entertain a motion? Move to approve.
Second.
Have a motion and second to approve 6E.
And Jeff, I had one more question for you. Should we expect any further packages on this, or are we done and moving forward at this point? Everything's clear to go.
There was a package on the consent agenda, I believe, but this wraps it up. At this
We're
We're breaking ground.
we're breaking ground on this tomorrow because we finish it up tonight.
That's our goal.
All right. I'm excited about it.
Motion carried.
He's got his shovel. Okay.
I'd just like to mention that David led the way to spend over $110 million.
Water and roads, baby, water and roads. I'm always good for
All right.
those things.
Item 6F, discuss and consider action to approve the resolution establishing a legislative agenda for the 89th
That's what I said
Texas
from the very
legislative
beginning.
session.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem Weiss and Council. I'm Brianna Higgins, the Special Projects Manager for the City Manager's Office. Tonight before you, we have for your approval the 89th Legislative Session Legislative Agenda. In the packet, there is a red line version so you can see the changes that happened from last year's 88th session to this year's 89th Legislative Session. A quick overview of the timeline so you kind of know what is coming up. Starting in November, pre-filing will begin. The 89th legislature will convene in January. There will be a 60-day deadline for bill filing, and then the last day of the session, regular session, will end June 2nd. There's a 20-day deadline after that for the governor to sign or veto any legislation, and then from there, the effective date is typically September 21st. Foremost.
That timeline's wrong. You don't have any of the 5 special sessions that will.
Right.
Thank you. For
Oh, come on, the legislature get everything done the first time.
It's a part-time job for
Oh, ye of little faith.
So, before you in this 89th legislative agenda, this has incorporated some feedback from our legislative subcommittee, as well as the feedback we heard during the lunch and learn we had a couple months ago, and staff for some of the items that they've heard at their professional organizations. So, what's new? Instead of going over everything that's in this legislative agenda, what's new? What have you not seen before? In this legislative agenda, you'll see the Trail Capital of Texas designation. Please just ignore that little typo that says Trial Capital. It has been fixed on what will be signed.
That's different.
We'll also have, we're also seeking legislation that prohibits TxDOT toll revenue requirements for toll road frontage road improvements. That was also discussed at that lunch and learn. And then what is new is seeking inclusion within hotel convention center legislation. So there is some legislation out there that allows cities to utilize and receive 100% of sales and use tax and hotel occupancy tax for a qualified hotel project. We are seeking to be included within that legislation. This is an additional tool within our tool belt that will allow us to bring some excellent things to the city of Pflugerville.
Sounds good.
There are slight changes for support and oppose. Some of those examples will include, seeking overturning legislation that would put limitations on municipal ability to annex, imposing restrictions on value-based fees, traffic impact analysis, and allowing unilateral disannexation without city council consent. There are a few additions to the support section, which includes allowing the city to issue certificates of obligation debt for infrastructure, allowing us for unilateral annexation, imposing restrictions on short-term rentals, single-family zoning, protecting and preserving trees, including requirements for tree planting, and enabling development to incorporate diverse landscapes featuring native plants that require less water while preventing HOAs from preventing that from occurring.
That's a lot of lobbying.
It's a lot of words. So
They're going to get it all done.
you'll also see that we'll monitor legislation that has 4B sales tax that will allow that 4B sales tax to be used for parks and recreation. Just monitoring that legislation and monitoring legislation that impacts human resources related policies, including police and non-sworn personnel.
Okay.
So our recommendation tonight is for approval of this 89th Texas Legislative Session agenda. This item supports many pillars of the strategic plan. I'm open for any questions you might have.
Brianna, this is a great package, and I love 90% of it. The big things that you hit, I think, are all great. I am concerned that there are some areas where we're poking the bear, and we're not gonna get anything productive out of it. I know many of these things are TML priorities, but I think maybe we should take a look at whether or not we want to poke the bear specifically. And the bottom of page 2, we got the general legislative positions. The very last one is that we oppose legislation that negatively impacts the city limits and extraterritorial boundaries. And I don't know that we would have much effect on that, but actually, I'm not certain that legislation like that would necessarily be to our detriment, because it would also necessarily affect our neighbor, and that might then enable commercial businesses that are in the ETJ of our neighbor to come inside the city of Pflugerville instead. It might also enable subdivisions on the edge of town to make that transition if the legislature acts in a way that would affect us and our neighbors both. So I think that might be something we want to think about.
So let's talk about that point quickly. That can already happen. They can de-annex right now as we speak, and we can go ahead and have them, join our city. So I don't think this affects one way or the other. I think this strengthens the whole point regarding our ability to actually control our ETJ, which has been eroding, to be generous about that, and the ability for us to be able to go ahead and have reasonable, equitable annexation in general. I don't think that hinders our points. I don't think it hurts us from there. I think that's just pragmatically speaking what us and the other 1,125 cities across the state of Texas are looking for.
All right. The next one that I had concern about is actually related to that, and it's under the specific legislative positions. It's the allow unilateral disannexation without city council consent. Now, obviously,
For a what?
we've had some. It is 4A6.
Thank you.
Obviously, we've had some issues with that. Other cities have had issues with that. I absolutely see that there are difficulties for us with that, but I'm not sure that we're doing anything there but poking the bear. I don't know that we would gain anything, or that we change the trajectory of anything the legislature is doing by specifically saying, hey, we don't want you to do this thing you just did. We want you to undo what you did in the last session. Generally, if the legislature is going to undo something they did, it usually takes 4 or 5 sessions at least before they're willing to reconsider that, and that requires some turnover of members and that sort of thing. So I just submit that maybe we might want to consider leaving that particular small piece out.
I would contend that it is within the scope of the other items where we are requesting for increased local control, not decreased local control. And yes, you're right. It may take more than 1 or 2 or 3 sessions, but we got to start somewhere. And so even if we don't take immediate direct action to pound on this one, we're putting a stake in the ground and we're saying, hey.
Okay, so you're saying this is just a general statement, not something we're going to make
it's our manifesto, right?
a priority. All right.
It might be helpful just for clarification. The sections that have support and opposition, that helps us as we're monitoring legislation have an idea of, is this something that the city would support? Is this something that we would oppose?
Right.
The legislation that we would be actively seeking to make movement on are those priorities under seek introduction and
Are the
passage.
things under 2?
Yes, those are the ones that we would actively work with our delegates to move on.
I kind of look at these items here as the litmus test. Do I care? right? Does it align with one of these things that we agree on that's germane to our outlook? And if it is, then that's something that maybe we have a conversation with someone about.
And frankly, from a don't poke the bear perspective, I think this bear expects to be poked. I think if we're not poking the bear a little bit, the bear's going to find something else to make us angry about.
Yeah.
So we
You're
need
right.
to make sure that we demonstrate our frustration before they come up with something else to make us more upset about.
I'm quite certain Austin will poke the bear enough to get them swatting anybody who is in the general vicinity.
I just want to reiterate what he said. There is an expectation for cities to go ahead and poke, lobby, support, and act on their behalfs and on their abilities and powers. That's not a problem. That's never seen as out of bounds. What's seen as out of bounds is ad hominem attacks, other things that go with that as well. I think this is a very professional document. I think, Randy, you put an excellent job articulating and conveying what we actually have on there. And frankly, I think that we've been working for a while now regarding what we want for a legislative agenda. This is what we're looking at. I think it's a great job. Mayor, would you entertain a motion?
Yes.
Motion to approve 6F as presented.
Second.
Motion and second to approve 6F.
908.
Oops.
That's for more discussion.
What did I do?
I beat that dead horse.
Trista? Hold on.
Ooh, timer.
I've messed up.
Timer is active.
Does this make our iPads blow up? I don't see a bit. No. Uh-oh.
Oh, there we go.
This is like Mission Impossible.
He set a deadline.
Wait.
Or Get Smart.
Oh, now the timer reactivated.
Is
Help me out here, Trista.
Is my iPad going to catch on fire now and self-destruct? This recording will self-destruct
All the
in
records
5 seconds.
Yep.
I poked the bear.
Oh, there goes 0.
Wait,
Oh,
momentarily.
what's going to happen?
Looks like
Negative.
only Doug Weiss voted.
Trista caught the blue wire.
I don't know.
I got
Wow.
negative time now.
There's a bunch of colors and.
It looks beautiful.
So many choices over there.
Oh, that's okay.
Okay,
Only
there
Doug
we go.
Weiss was recorded as voting, but he voted the right way, so.
Okay.
Oh, wait,
Carried.
There it is.
now the
All
rest of us voted.
right. Epic.
All right.
All right. I think that is the regular items, correct? No?
I think that's
No, yeah,
everything
we're
on the
done
regular.
with, yeah, okay. So Trista, if you'd go back to the items pulled, please. 5C, 5A, 5B.
Yes, item 5A is approving an ordinance on second reading with a caption reading: an ordinance of the City of Pflugerville, Texas, amending ordinance number 1203-15-02-24 of the City of Pflugerville, Texas as amended by approving a specific use permit for industrial uses light and office warehouse on approximately 42.23 acre property generally located north of Cameron Road, east of the Northeast Metro Park, south of the Pecan Street, and west of State Highway 130, situated in the William Caldwell Survey Abstract Number 162, City of Pflugerville, Travis County, Texas, to be known as the Cameron Road Industrial Specific Use Permit, providing cumulative and repealer clause, providing for a non-severability clause, and providing an effective date.
Thank you. I did pull this item. I just had a question. Obviously, it's a second reading, but I know between last meeting and this meeting, the developer has informed me that they have entered into some deed restrictions on the property. I just want to make sure that that is in fact accurate, that we're satisfied with that and prepared to move forward.
We are.
Excellent.
All right. Move approval then.
Second.
Motion and second to approve 5A.
Nice job working on an innovative solution on that.
Yeah, I was going to say, good job.
That's a tough end run to make.
Charlie, good job.
Motion carried.
Excellent.
Next item is
sure they'll hold
5C,
up.
approving a memorandum of understanding with the Capital Metropolitan Transportation Authority and authorizing the city manager to execute the same.
Ask your question very quickly.
Oh,
There's a timer.
There's no timer on mine.
I want to push time.
The hell
There could be.
I can ask my question very slow. Okay.
I think Kim's going to jump in.
I just wanted to verify that this is not a general purpose, we're getting in bed with Cap Metro, but this is just for a water easement, correct?
Correct. It's for a water easement.
Excellent.
That's what I wanted to know. Move to approve.
Second.
And motion and second to approve 5C.
I didn't know the legal term was get in bed, but okay, here we go.
Cohabitate, I don't know.
Motion carried.
Item 5D, approving a professional services agreement with Kimley Horn and Associates, Inc. in the amount of $220,503 for preliminary engineering and design services for the Limestone Commercial to Pfluger Farm Lane North project, and authorizing the city manager to execute the same.
I pulled this one as well. My question, could we get a diagram up on the screen? I know there was something in the packet. I don't know if there was a
Sure.
presentation slide. And then I have
Can you flip
hopefully
to
one
it?
simple question.
I think it's on there.
I know.
5D.
I know. 18.
Yes, sir.
There we go. There we go. Project for minutes. So this does show, I believe, on the is that the right hand side of the screen. That'd be the 130, or excuse me, the 45 access road that Pfluger Farm Lane will dead end into.
Yes.
Okay. Will there be a traffic signal at that intersection?
Limestone, on the frontage road or?
On the frontage road at the Pfluger Farm Lane intersection.
We have not scoped to look at a possibility of that.
Okay. Will there be any traffic control along the access road that facilitates the ingress egress of either the exit from Stonehill or the Pfluger Farm Lane there?
We haven't, y'all just approved supplemental agreement back in the summer for us to finish out Pfluger Farm. We didn't include that in the scope, but that's certainly something we call intersection control evaluation, where we'll look at an intersection and see of the different intersection control options, what would make the most sense for that.
Yeah, I think
It would require text dot
So you're
coordination.
talking about
it would certainly require some TxDOT involvement, but I think given the traffic that I see and the traffic I see trying to get out of this area, I think Pfluger Farm Lane is going to be great ingress egress to the area, but it's certainly going to come with some congestion as well. I'd really like to see some traffic control there.
Okay, we can look into that and probably come back to you for a supplement.
All right, thank you, Dr. Cam.
Thank you.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve 5D.
You know how long we've been waiting for this?
16 years.
I know. I remember when we moved into Highland Park. Hey, we're going to be able to have a street like that. I think only 24 people.
23.
23.
Motion carried.
23.
24.
We're adjourned.
All right, there we go.
Not
If
enough.
it was 24, you would have voted.
That changes everything.